What was supposed to be a night of celebration turned into disaster after 4 friends who were all drunk left the bar in the city without a designated driver. Designate a driver. Don't drink and drive.
This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Wednesday, the 22nd day of January in the year 2025. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. President Irfan Ali has announced that a new minimum standard for quality of service at community health centers and schools has been agreed upon and will soon be implemented nationwide, even as he acknowledges that there are challenges that prevent citizens from accessing government services at those facilities in a timely manner. The president met on Tuesday with regional health officers and regional education officers, where he explained the need to match the delivery of service with the investments that the government has been making in the sector. He noted that while there are systematic challenges, some things could be done to improve services. The meeting was called days after the president held community meetings in a number of areas, where he was bombarded with complaints about the poor quality of government services.
What we really sought to achieve today was finding the formula that would fix existing issues, the inefficiencies in the system, whether it's the small issues like washroom, sanitation, issues within health centers, health outposts, schools, or whether it was structural issues.
The president also noted that his vision for systemic changes is to make service delivery more people-centered and people-oriented. He asserted that part of that vision is to reduce the cost of accessing government services.
And we have set today the minimum standards that we'll accept in facilities in every community for health and education. I have said also that, for example, our patients should not be coming every month just to have the replenishment of their medical supplies. That every health center must upkeep a full register of all the patients, chronic disease patients, and their medical supply needs. And they must be given 3 months' supplies.
According to President Ali, doing business with government should not be costly for citizens, in particular those at the community level.
We want to reduce the costs of people receiving government business, reduce the time it takes them to receive government service, and improve the quality and delivery of that service. And that is being more direct, being more approachable, creating a more customer-oriented environment, and ensuring that all the investments that we are making deliver at the optimum level.
The government has been hosting a number of outreaches across the country as it gears up for elections 2025. More news coming up in just a moment.
It all starts with one. Maybe it's one look. You know the one. Or one touch. Even one word. I can start with one step. Or one promise. One thrill. One first time. One deep breath. One leap of faith. One day to remember. Or one night to forget. One moment. So many stories that make up one crazy, average, everyday, fabulous life. We get one life. Just one. Make your move. It all starts with one.
more than just four walls, floors, and ceilings. It's a lifetime of great memories and stories. Come talk to us and start your journey home today.
Republic Bank. We're the one for you.
Honey, what were you doing? Let's cash out. Let's cash out.
Shop $5,000 or more at any Massey stores for a chance to win a 2024 Nissan Qashqai Sense and $100,000 every 2 weeks with Massey Stores Christmas Jackpot Promotion.
Welcome to Dinner Under the Stars. Indulge in a culinary feast prepared by our talented chefs, featuring locally sourced ingredients and exquisite flavors. Every bite will take you on a culinary journey, from unforgettable starters to delectable desserts. Relax to the soothing sounds of the stylistics and blue magic as the stars twinkle above, creating the perfect ambience for a romantic evening or memorable gathering. Join us for Dinner Under the Stars. Reserve your table today and create memories that will last a lifetime.
In the agriculture sector, the main union representing sugar workers, the Guyana Agricultural and General Workers Union GAWU, has welcomed the allocation of $13.3 billion in this year's budget to the sugar industry, describing the move as a positive step. In a statement today, GAWU said that while there are gaps that have to be filled to ensure viability for the industry, it sees the government support as strategic to fill those gaps to ensure growth in the sector. Last year, GuySuCo missed all of its targets and ended up with the lowest sugar production level in the country's history. But GAWU believes support such as the $13.3 billion in this year's budget will set the field for a turnaround. The union said the budget outlines a strategic approach to land conversion that supports mechanized operations, an essential step in enhancing productivity, adding that the initiative aligns with the union's earlier proposals to optimize labor resources and reduce work efforts. The union said although its suggestions were not adopted during the previous administration, it is encouraging to see the current direction acknowledges the potential benefits of such measures. GAWU believes that if the investment is properly utilized, especially in areas of packaging and increasing production, the industry has a good chance of not only meeting its target, but the current demand for sugar can see it earning increased revenue as well. The union is also not happy with critics of the government's multi-billion-dollar allocation and continued financial support for the problem-plagued sugar industry. Describing the criticism as divisive, GAWU said the rhetoric is unsurprising and a predictable tactic designed to provoke and manipulate public opinion. According to the union, the sentiments reveal a shallow analysis and an anti-people partisan mindset. The union said President Irfan Ali articulated perfectly when he emphasized that the industry must not be viewed solely through a financial lens, but the broader socio-economic implications must be appreciated. The union said it remains steadfast in its commitment to collaborate with all stakeholders to rejuvenate the sugar industry and bring about transformative change, though it says the challenges confronting the industry demand great focus. Turning our attention now to the world of politics. Clearly unhappy with tidbits of a signed agreement to explore the possibility of the APNU and the AFC once again joining forces ahead of national elections, Alliance for Change leader Nigel Hughes said the agreement has now found itself on life support. Mr. Hughes called a press conference last evening after some information about the agreement was reported in one section of the media, hours after the exploratory agreement was signed.
I would only say that trust and confidentiality for us are particularly important, and let me leave it there.
However, Hughes expressed some confidence that there is still hope that the issues that arose following the agreement would be resolved, and that the two sides can move forward on a positive note. According to the AFC leader, the signed exploratory agreement has two phases, with one being dependent on the other.
The agreement was structured in two phases. The first phase would be an exploratory phase where we examine whether or not it is possible for us to collaborate in the national interest and present a joint team or a single team to contest the next elections. The second phase is dependent on whether or not we had a successful conclusion to the first phase.
The parties have until the 31st of March to determine whether they will contest the elections as a united front or as independent parties. Jamaican politician Alston Stewart is leading the negotiations on behalf of the AFC. Hughes said the AFC remains committed to contesting the elections on its own, but has agreed to consider a possible coalition in keeping with a decision of its executive.
We have been authorized by our executive to enter into discussion with other parties. We believe that with some parties, it is better to have documented the parameters of our engagement just so that we are all on the same page. However, there is no change in our commitment to enter into these elections on our own if necessary.
The AFC leader also said there is no agreement on who will be the presidential candidate if the two sides agree to move forward together.
There has to be a mechanism for identifying, assuming that it gets out of life support and gets back on its feet. There has to be a mechanism and a process for identifying the leadership. For us, that process has to be driven by scientific means, polls and other criteria. If and when we get there, I'm sure we'll address that.
The AFC already has used its presidential candidate should it go it alone at the upcoming elections. And the PNC, which is the major party in the APNU, has its leader Aubrey Norton as its presidential candidate. Norton has not closed the doors on another possible candidate, but has repeatedly indicated that that candidate will have to come from the PNC and APNU. In 2015, the APNU and AFC inked a coalition pact that saw them winning the 2015 elections. Just after they were booted from government in 2020, the AFC opted not to renew the pact at the time, although in the National Assembly they remain as the APNU-AFC coalition. Now let's tell you that the Court of Appeal has rejected the state's application to stay a ruling by Justice Sandal Kisuna, mandating the continuation of deductions of union dues and their remittance to the Guyana Teachers Union. The decision is being seen as a significant victory for the Guyana Teachers Union. In a statement, attorney for the GTU, Darren Wade, said in delivering the ruling of the court, Appeal Justice Dawn Gregory explained that the GTU would suffer undue prejudice if the stay was granted, adding that the balance of justice lies in favor of the union. GTU General Secretary Coretta MacDonald said the decision is a landslide victory, not only for the union, but also for unionized workers across the country and even in the Caribbean. MacDonald said the decision puts to rest the notion that the GTU-led strike action, which involved thousands of teachers, was politically motivated.
The courts today, the appeals courts today, just like Justice Sandal Kisuna, in his ruling mentioned that all GTU did was to reinforce an industrial practice.
Yeah.
That is so laid out in the laws of industrial relations. And so this victory is for our teachers who stood out there for 75 days. For the citizens all across Guyana and in the diaspora who were there with us.
High Court Judge Sandal Kisuna initially granted an interim conservatory order in February of last year. The order restrained the government of Guyana from ceasing the deduction of union dues from the wages and salaries of GTU members and required the remittance to the union. The order was made absolute by the same judge in April of last year when the court delivered its ruling. MacDonald said despite the court's order, the state has failed to comply, refusing to deduct and remit the union dues as instructed for close to a year.
They refused to do it. They refused to do that. Refused to, even while we would have expected that after the judge ruled, the dues would have been reinstated And while they are awaiting the appeal and the outcome of the appeal, it would have continued, but the government refused to deduct and remit the dues, refused to do that from February up to this point.
Meanwhile, Attorney Darren Wade said the ongoing defiance of court orders, particularly by the Attorney General, is both contemptuous and an affront to the administration of justice. Such actions, he said, undermine public confidence in the local judiciary. Meanwhile, the opposition People's National Congress Reform has welcomed the ruling. In a statement last evening, the PNC said the victory is an indication that justice has been served and that the strength, unity, and resilience demonstrated by the teachers during their protest action were grounded in the laws that are enshrined in the country's constitution.
Welcome to Dinner Under the Stars. Indulge in a culinary feast prepared by our talented chefs, featuring locally sourced ingredients and exquisite flavors. Every bite will take you on a culinary journey, from unforgettable starters to delectable desserts. Relax to the soothing sounds of the stylistics and blue magic as the stars twinkle above, creating the perfect ambience for a romantic evening or memorable gathering. Join us for Dinner Under the Stars. Reserve your table today and create memories that will last a lifetime.
Your own home is so much more than just four walls, floors, and ceilings. It's a lifetime of great memories and stories. Come talk to us and start your journey home today.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Ready to up your game? Ready to up your game? Win big with over 60 epic prizes. A brand new PS5, Nintendo Switch, iPhone 16 Pro Max, Apple smartwatch, and the hottest earbuds from Apple and Samsung. Plus, we are giving away thousands in phone credit and a whole year supply of Buster or Turbo Energy drink. Here's how. Buy any Buster or Turbo Energy drink, find the code starting with BB and enter online or on WhatsApp. Visit us on Facebook or Instagram at Turbo_Caribbean or Buster Guyana for all the details. Don't just play. Up your game with Buster and Turbo Energy.
Still with that ruling from the Court of Appeal, Attorney General Anil Nandlal is not happy with the court's decision, and he now intends to further appeal on the matter. On his Issues in the News program last night, he said in addition to having a strong case, a previous precedent was set in a similar case by the Court of Appeal, and therefore he contends that the ruling should have gone in the state's favor.
I am not surprised by the ruling because I had advised the cabinet that the government doesn't have a track record of winning cases in the Guyana Court of Appeal. And I'm not casting any aspersions. If you check the statistics, they will bear out that statement.
Last February, the government took a decision that it will no longer continue to deduct union dues from the salaries of teachers on behalf of their union. The move came in the height of strike action that had been called by the Guyana Teachers Union for increased salaries for the teachers. While the state has appealed the entire decision of Justice Sandal Kisoon, it was seeking to have the particular aspect of the union fees, deduction, and remittance set aside. The Attorney General contends that there is no duty in law that tells the government that it must perform that service for the Guyana Teachers Union or any other union.
The government is now being saddled with a responsibility and a duty now in law to collect union dues and pay it over to the union from members of the union. That's a union business. How can you compel a government to do that? And I thought that the law was clear, it having been settled by the very Court of Appeal in the Nanda Gopal case.
The GTU has since said it will challenge the non-compliance of the order of the court, which was made since last February. The Cyril Potter College of Education has launched 4 new programs as it continues its work to transform teacher training and education countrywide. The 4 new programs are Health and Family Life Education, Literacy Studies, Special Education Needs and Disabilities Education, and General Teachers Education. Minister of Education Priya Manak Chand said the launch of the programs is an important step in meeting the needs of both educators and students. She explained that in the case of the General Teachers Education Program, it provides teachers who have been in the education system for an expansive period an opportunity to complete a certificate program within 1 year.
So you have a degree in chemistry and you've been teaching for 30 years. Am I going to ask that teacher to come back to CPC for 2 years? That was stupid. It would not make any sense. They've already been teaching. Maybe they need some methodology. They've been teaching for 30 years and getting results. So we crafted a program, and I asked them to craft a program. It was not supposed to be as long as a year. It's supposed to be 6 months, where the teacher can come back in and get methodology teaching, not content.
The Education Minister also said the other programs, in particular the Special Education Needs and Disabilities Education Program, will promote a high level of inclusive education as the country continues its move to construct its first deaf school. Meanwhile, CPCE's Vice Principal for Curriculum, Nicola Tyndall-Pantlis, said the programs are in keeping with the college's vision for inclusive and equitable education as it continues to meet the evolving needs of both educators and students.
Health and Family Life Education focuses on equipping teachers to deliver holistic education that nurtures students' physical, emotional, and social well-being.
And she further explained that the program will soon be expanded to all of CPCE's satellite centers. Meanwhile, the Literacy Studies program is designed to address literacy challenges in the country.
This program equips teachers with specialized strategies to improve reading, writing, and comprehension skills, particularly our students in the underserved and rural areas. By focusing on foundational literacy, this program aims to reduce learning disparities and promote lifelong learning.
And the Special Education Needs and Disabilities Education Program is designed to promote exclusive education practices and provide all students, regardless of their abilities, access to quality education. The first cohort of Special Education Needs and Disabilities Education graduated last October, while General Teachers Education, a 1-year training program, is designed for subject degree holders. It is intended to fast-track the preparation of highly skilled educators who are equipped to meet the demands of modern classrooms. The opposition party, the Working People's Alliance, said its initial assessment of this year's $1.3 trillion budget reveals that it is merely a party campaign document with little benefit for the poor and vulnerable. The co-leader of the WPA, Dr. David Hines, said it was a not-so-veiled attempt to foist on the nation a party campaign document in the guise of a national budget. He said it failed to put fiscal policies and programs in place to address the poor and vulnerable.
The allocations continue the sickening and callous habit of ignoring the role of budgets in underdeveloped countries such as Guyana in addressing the process of poverty alleviation as a chronic impediment to development. Even without an exhaustive study, WPA cannot give the budget a passing grade as far as its intent to confront poverty in a holistic manner. Poverty alleviation cannot be facilitated by a basket of election gimmicks as represented by this budget. This is not a budget for the poor.
Dr. Hines said the clear and present challenge of mitigating the skyrocketing cost of living has been shortchanged by the budget. He said while the government dangled the usual list of indirect measures, it failed to significantly put a discernible increase in disposable income in the hands of those in the lower income brackets. He said Guyanese households would have benefited more with the introduction of a universal basic income of $1 million.
The first thing that we would have implemented a universal basic income, Svetlana. We are very clear about that. And we have said that a universal basic income, based on our estimation, each household in Guyana should be getting at a minimum $1 million Guyanese dollars. That would have been part of a WPA budget. And we feel that once you implement a universal basic income, it would be a supplement to the small increases that you have there. The increases as they stand there, they do not amount to an easing of the cost of living.
And adding his voice to the issue, Takuma Ugunse, who is an executive with the WPA, said the increase in old age pension, along with a slight increase in the income tax threshold and other tax relief measures, are nothing compared to the promises made by the PPP in its manifesto.
In 2025, and the PPP have failed to deliver that important manifesto promise. And this is a party that normally boasts of being consistent in implementing manifesto promises. And this to me is a great crime against the elderly. Because the fact of the matter is that the elderly serve this nation. And in a real way, a percentage of them will die before the next budget. And to deny them the 50,000 and more in the light of oil money and plenty is criminal political behavior.
Another executive member, Rohit Kanai, said the budget is sowing seeds of division in the country, and that should never be the case. He said turning the budget into an electioneering gimmick sows division among the people and would only lead to disunity in the country.
Guyana's economy is rapidly transforming, and we're all part of it. Guyoil is at the forefront of this development by providing reliable and efficient energy and supporting community development from the very core. 100% of Guyoil's profit goes back to building schools, roads, and other important infrastructure that connects our cities and towns, providing fuel to domestic, marine, industrial, and aerial transportation. Guyoil has now repositioned itself as a market leader in the petroleum industry, building a better future for all of us.
What was supposed to be a night of celebration turned into disaster after 4 friends who were all drunk left the bar in the city without a designated driver. Designate a driver. Don't drink and drive.
It all starts with one. Maybe it's one look. You know the one. Or one touch. Even one word. I can start with one step. Or one promise. One thrill. One first time. One deep breath. One leap of faith. One day to remember, or one night to forget. One moment, so many stories that make up one crazy, average, everyday, fabulous life. We get one life, just one. Make your move. It all starts with one.
With your regional and international news tonight, I am Svetlana Marshall in the region. Jamaica Observer reports that the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Jamaica, which has more than 307,000 members in some 738 congregations, while insisting that it is not declaring war on employers or institutions who continue to disrespect its religious rights and beliefs, said it will be using its upcoming January 30 summit to plea for understanding and flexibility. The group, while making it clear that it is more than prepared to have the issue decided on by the courts, said the summit, to be held at the Jamaica Conference Center in downtown Kingston, is designed to foster dialogue and understanding among different religious groups. According to Nigel Cope, Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Director for the Jamaica Union Conference of Seventh Day, the Seventh-day Adventist membership has been coming under increased pressure in relation to going beyond hours on Friday and Saturdays, which is considered their Sabbath. He said the high-level meeting, which will feature presentations by Prime Minister Andrew Holness, as well as other religious leaders, will highlight the challenges faced by some workers in the private and public sector and student challenges in tertiary institutions. Brazil's newly appointed head of the planned 2025 COP30 climate summit in the city of Belém warned on Tuesday that President Donald Trump's decision to withdraw the United States from the Paris Agreement would cast a shadow over the talks. Ambassador Andre Correa do Lago told reporters on Tuesday that Brazil was still analyzing President Trump's announcements. Trump withdrew the U.S. from the 2015 pact right after taking office for a second non-consecutive term on Monday, removing the world's biggest historic emitter of greenhouse gases from global efforts to fight climate change for the second time in a decade. The move adds to challenges Brazil was already set to face as COP30 host, including tough disputes over financing the energy transition in developing countries and the new challenges to reduce emissions countries have vowed to make. And finally tonight, international news. According to the BBC, President Donald Trump has urged Russia's Vladimir Putin to make a deal to end the ridiculous Ukraine war or face new tariffs and sanctions. In a social media post, he said he had a good relationship with his Russian counterpart, but if a deal was not made soon, he would impose fresh economic penalties. Meanwhile, all refugees travel to the U.S. is being suspended following an executive order from Donald Trump. It means refugees with permission to enter the U.S. will not be allowed in, and the processing of new cases is suspended. The executive order on Monday said the U.S. has been inundated with record levels of migration, including through the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program. Federal agencies earlier put diversity staff on paid leave. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Svetlana Marshall, wishing you a pleasant evening.